I love teaching English online. It is so much fun. I've had such a great time. I've met so many amazing students. And more importantly, for me, it's allowed me the freedom and my family the freedom to live a beautiful lifestyle where we have lived in all these amazing countries. And, I've got so many wonderful stories, partly due to the fact that I've been able to teach English online for so many years. So it's amazing. It's a wonderful starting point, I would say, and I do encourage you, if you're thinking about moving abroad, or even if you just want some more flexibility in your schedule, you want to spend some more time, work around your family commitments. But yeah, definitely, if you're ready to move abroad, you have no idea how to get started, teaching English as a foreign language is the perfect way to get started and earning an online income. Hey family, what's up? So I wanted to give a quick intro because I actually filmed this in 2024, and you're probably watching this sometime after 2026. And even though it was filmed a couple of years ago, I definitely think that it's still completely relevant. Things have changed a little bit maybe, but I don't even work actually in teaching English anymore. My husband does, so full time, and he is chock-a-blocked with students. His calendar is so packed and busy. So I definitely think this is a fantastic video to have on your hand and use it to learn more about teaching English online, and then you adapt and adjust, according to how things are exactly right now. But I just wanted to make sure that you had access to it so you could at least get started. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop them below, and of course I'll get back to you as soon as I can. All right, let's go. Hey family, Shanique here, and welcome to Teaching English Online Basics. Guys, I'm having to re-record this. Having troubles with the Zoom at the moment. I'm hoping that we can recover the live that we did together, but I wanted to make sure that you definitely still had something. So in the meantime, you've got this pre-recording. All right, so today we're going to be talking about teaching English online basics and how to get started with your TEFL career. So a little bit about me, for those of you who've never met me before, my name is Shanique. I also go by Chi. I was born and raised in the UK, and in 2018, my husband and I decided we were done with the monotony of life, with going to work, being, commuting, the weather, how expensive it was. And we took our 9-month-old daughter, we quit our jobs and decided to become digital nomads and global citizens and embark on a worldwide adventure. It's been 6 years since we did that. We've lived in 14 countries. Most recently, we were in Mexico. My son was born in 2022 in Mexico. So yeah, it's been a phenomenal ride, and I'm grateful to be able to say one of the reasons that we were able to live this lifestyle is because we started by teaching English online. Well, my husband was the first person to get into the TEFL industry. So yeah, it's been a huge part of our lifestyle and allowing us to live this beautiful life. And I want to share that with you and how it helped us to get started and how I hope it will help you get started on your journey, whatever that looks like for you. So let's dive right in. Okay, so these are the topics that we're going to be covering today. So, why teach English online? Do you have what it takes? Which qualification should you go for, if you go for a qualification at all? Specializing in TEFL, how to get started without a qualification, the essential equipment that you need, searching for a TEFL job, and we're going to touch on some of the realities of online TEFL as well. Okay, so why teach English online? The demand for the English language and skills in English is on the rise worldwide. We know it's a global language, and people of all ages, all kinds of backgrounds are trying to improve their English for academic reasons, for professional reasons, sometimes just for personal reasons as well. The online learning platforms that we have available to us now have completely revolutionized education. It allows students flexibility, convenience to be able to learn from anywhere in the world, connecting with a tutor who could be based anywhere in the world. It's phenomenal. And of course, because of that, there has been a huge growth in the online tutoring market, and it's currently projected to reach $153 billion by 2025, next year. So it's an exciting opportunity that you're looking at getting into. I personally love teaching English online, not only because it offered us such an amazing lifestyle, but it's super flexible. There's good, decent potential, potentially unlimited untapped potential as well, that you can earn doing this. You literally can work from anywhere in the world as long as you have a good internet connection. You get to set your own hours. Usually you create a timetable, an environment that works for you, that can be super flexible. And as I mentioned before, it's one of the easiest routes into entry for creating an online income. Like I said, it's what we started with, and you can start with no qualifications or experience if you want to. That's what I did. I actually don't have a TEFL qualification. My husband does, but I never studied TEFL. I just went straight into it, and I was able to secure a job and spend like 4, almost 5 years teaching English online without any kind of qualification at all. So it can be really easy to get into, and we're going to share a little bit about that today. All right. Is it still worth it though in 2024? You may have heard lots of different things about the TEFL industry. Some people may have said to you, oh no, don't teach English online anymore. There's no opportunities. China stopped that a long time ago. It's not completely true. What they are talking about is the fact that, yes, the TEFL industry was kind of flipped upside down in most recent years because the Chinese government released some new regulations. And this happened, I think, maybe a couple of years ago. They decided that they wanted to take control of the industry, the learning English online industry. And so, yes, there were some huge changes that did create a big shift. They basically decided that preschoolers were no longer allowed to take online English lessons, that foreign teachers who resided outside of China were not allowed to teach online English lessons. And they also put time limitations as well, on any online classes for English. And they said that these classes couldn't take place after 9 p.m. Beijing time. They also said there were not allowed to be any classes on the weekends or during school holidays. Yeah, but there was all these limitations that they were placing. They were saying that companies had to be registered as non-profits. They weren't allowed to advertise. It definitely did send shockwaves in the TEFL industry. Lost their seemingly stable income overnight. Companies were forced to shut down. It had a lot of people running scared. However, it made me realize China does not control the entire online English market. Not at all. There's absolutely still room for you. When all of this was happening, I was working with a company that did not have Chinese students. The students that I primarily worked with were Japanese or Korean, some parts of Europe, like Italian students as well. I rarely had students from China. So I wasn't impacted. And for majority of my years that I have been teaching English online, I've been booked and busy. Like I've had, I would say between 80 to like 95% of any slots that I opened were booked and I had students. And all of this craziness was going on didn't impact on me at all. My husband, he had stopped teaching English by the time that that had happened. But if he was still teaching, he would have been affected because he did work with two Chinese companies. So those companies will have been shut down, but it didn't impact on me. China is not in control of the whole world. Um, so, like I said, you might want to focus on companies that work with students from other parts of the world. So, like, one of the things that I know is that working with Japanese students is English is mandatory in Japan, and they start learning English in elementary school. The interesting thing about learning English in Japan is majority of the English teachers over there who are Japanese don't actually speak English. It's one of the funkiest things ever. But it's real. So majority of the time they have a focus on reading, listening, and writing skills. They don't focus on English, so it meant that their Japanese English teachers were able to get away with not being able to speak English. That is changing because the government is now prioritizing speaking skills. And it means that these Japanese teachers are now having to learn how to speak English. So I had it that a lot of my bookings were now coming from Japanese teachers who needed to learn how to speak English. It's something that they hadn't really had to do before. So that's an area that you might want to focus on, go into a country like Japan where they really don't have the opportunity to meet and connect with English speakers, and they need to practice their English. That means we have a whole generation of children coming through that need to learn how to speak English. And who's going to be teaching them, right? Also, my sister-in-law is Spanish, and one of the things that she was telling us is that many courses in Spain at university level are taught in English. Or if you want to get a certain level in your degree, that having English can boost your credits as well. So there again is a heavy emphasis on wanting to learn how to speak English. Here are opportunities that you can tap into. And this is just from what I know, from people that I know. I'm sure, there's so many other countries in the world as well. Plenty of opportunity for you. You just may have to do a little out of the box thinking when it comes to creating those opportunities. So, do you have what it takes? Of course, prior teaching experience is definitely a plus, but it's not actually a requirement. The most important qualities for online English teaching are having strong English language skills. Ideally, you should be native English. I want to kind of expand on this a little bit more because it's a little bit of a taboo topic in the TEFL industry. Many companies will ask that you are native English speaking, or they will financially boost the income of people who are native English speakers. And the countries where they consider you to be a native English speaker is if you were born and raised in the United States, the United Kingdom, Australia, Canada, and sometimes South Africa. Not always, sometimes. It's I can't lie, it like reeks of Western privilege. So if you were born and raised in the Caribbean, in certain parts of Africa, let's say, like Nigeria, Ghana, certain parts of Asia, like the Philippines, Malaysia, and you were born and English is still your mother tongue, you still may not be considered a native English speaker, even though English is your first language. And it sucks, reeks of Western privilege, but it is what it is. And I'll give you a prime example. So AJ and I both interviewed for the same company to teach English online. We both passed the interview and we were both accepted. In his interview, AJ mentioned that he was born and raised in Jamaica. Now, when it came to offering us the job, he was offered half the amount that I was offered. I was born and raised in London. We both have British passports. He just happened to mention that he was born and raised, that he was Jamaican, that he was born and raised in Jamaica. And I was offered $10 an hour and he was offered $5 an hour. And he has a TESOL qualification. He is qualified as an online English teacher. I do not have a qualification. They did not care. They just, heard my accent, saw my passport and saw that I was British, and that was all that mattered to them. And it's tricky. I do understand it in some points. It's because many students don't actually care about grammar and vocabulary and pronunciation, and and kind of being able to speak correctly. They just want to talk like you. They some students will definitely focus on your accent. I've had it. Like, I've had people be like, oh my gosh, I love your accent, I want to know how to speak like you do, I love Hugh Grant. um, they just hear, oh, you're from there and I want to sound exactly like you. Or I'll give another example. I've had students that want to learn, maybe they're going to live and work in the UK and they're like, I want to learn colloquial language, I want to know how to speak idioms. Idioms aren't necessarily going to be understood by people who are non-native English. So, if I was to say, oh, it's raining cats and dogs, for example, someone from the Philippines may not understand that. And I've had students say when they've done work with non-native teachers, they can't help them with, local slang and colloquial language, because it's a cultural thing that you have to be a part of to understand. And they want to learn, if I'm going to go to the UK, some of the material, I will say, some of the material you work with can be outdated, and I am able to say to students, we don't talk like that in London, don't say that when you go to London. Then that's only someone who is from London or from the UK can tell you. Someone from the Philippines, even though they may have far better grammatical skills, and they probably do, to be honest, because my grammar is not the greatest. But those kind of local slang words, idioms, for example, local phrases, you can only really learn from a native speaker. So it sucks, but I do understand it to a certain extent. If you are non-native, considered non-native by a platform, but you do have a Western passport, focus on that. Tell them that's where you are from. Take advantage of that Western platform. If you're born in Jamaica, but you have a British passport, I'm British now. That's all they need to know. Don't even mention that you're from another country. But yes, I just want to make sure that you are aware of that, because it can be a sticking point and I don't want you to minimize your income potential. Okay, so of course, some of the other things, you need to have a love of language, ideally, being passionate about wanting to help and support other people, being able to connect and create a strong bond with people in a positive and an encouraging way. A lot of your students may be a little bit shy and they just need a boost of confidence. So you're there to support them with that. You need to have strong communication skills. You need to have good interpersonal skills. And of course, basic computer literacy, time management definitely helps. You can get penalized for being late. You want to make sure, that you have all of these things that you can ensure that you are successful in the TEFL industry. Yeah, those are the things that are gonna help you to get started. But what kind of basic things, majority of us, I think, here would say that we have all of those things. Let's talk about qualifications. Whether or not you need a qualification, we'll go on to that in a little bit. But let's go into the qualifications that do exist in the industry. So, which qualification could you work towards? So, these are probably the most common qualifications that you will hear and get to know about. So first we have the TEFL qualification, which stands for Teaching English as a Foreign Language. This is like the most basic and probably the most common qualification. It's the one that most people go into. It's the most recognized. It's an entry-level qualification, good for beginners. It's going to give you the foundational knowledge and skills to teach English online to non-native speakers. The TESOL, Teaching English to Speakers of Other Language, is a broader qualification, and it definitely goes deeper into learning to teach English in a variety of different contexts. We're thinking about maybe if you want to work with immigrants and refugees, you may do a focus on teaching kids English or teaching business English, how to help with exam preparation. With CELTA stands for Certificate of English Language Teaching to Adults. It's more focused on adults, of course, as mentioned, but it's also, I would say, for people who have maybe some teaching experience already or have really strong language skills. And there's also definitely more of an emphasis on the practical teaching skills as well. And then finally, we have DELTA, which is the Diploma in English Language Teaching to Adults. And this is the most advanced qualification out of all of the four. And I would say these are for like the more experienced teachers who want to specialize in teaching with adults and get that considered top tier qualification, I guess. However, there really isn't a best qualification that you should move towards with. I would say it really depends on your current experience and what your intentions and your goals are in working in the TEFL industry. If you are like, I just want to start as soon as possible, I need to get out of this country and I need to make sure that I'm earning some kind of income, then just go for your basic TEFL. I would say that's for the beginners. That's the quickest to obtain as well. As a minimum, you want to look for a course that has at least 120 study hours, not necessarily practical hours, but 120 study hours is the minimum accepted qualification if you go down that route. But yeah, that's definitely the quickest to obtain. For TESOL, I would say focus on TESOL if you're thinking of specializing in a particular area, because it does contain that bit more and goes deeper into giving you the knowledge into particular areas. CELTA and DELTA are like the gold standard, the top tier qualifications. They are the highest, the most valued qualifications in the TEFL industry. And DELTA specifically, if you're wanting to maybe aim towards more senior positions. However, what's cool about these qualifications is they can build on each other. So you could start with the TEFL and then progress onto the others. You're like, okay, I've done TEFL, but I could do with a bit more. So you could decide to then move on to the TESOL, for example. But you can also start with the TEFL, and a lot of the basic TEFL qualifications also allow you to purchase add-ons as well. So you could get the TEFL qualification, but also purchase a teaching kids English package. And so you have the TEFL, but you have that specialism as well if you know that one specialized area that you want to focus on. But it's really up to you. There is no right qualification. But let's dive a little bit into that. So as we know, you need to focus on your current experience levels and what you're, currently working towards. But it is important for you to know that there is no overarching accrediting body for the TEFL industry or for TEFL providers as well. Technically, you do not have to have accreditation from one particular body in order to create and sell TEFL courses. This means that, yes, there is a lack of regulation in the TEFL industry. So you need to do a little bit more work to work out what are reputable TEFL course providers, but I'm going to help you with that. So a course provider that is reputable will go out of their way to seek accreditation from established accrediting bodies who have high standards already, who have rigorous assessment processes. So, for example, excuse me. So, for example, TEFL.org, their level 5 course is Ofqual regulated. They also have British Accreditation Council accreditation as well. And we know that the British Accreditation Council have rigorous standards. We know that their inspection process is high. They're going to be making sure that these providers are doing the right things to ensure that you have a good quality course. So ideally, you want to focus on courses that have accreditation from reputable organizations. And I'm going to give you a list of providers who do have that already, but of course you need to make sure that you still do your due diligence. Okay, the other thing you want to think about is comparing costs as well. You will find qualifications that cost as low as like £29, $29, and then it could go all the way up to like $2,000. It really depends on like the length of the course, what's included in the course, is it in person versus being online. So yeah, like a $29 course will be like a Groupon course. You can find TEFL qualifications on Groupon. Will it be by a reputable organization? Maybe, maybe not. We don't know. I have thrown in a Groupon link, but you've got to look for yourself and see, if it's reputable. Versus a course that's more intensive. You can do them full time if you want. You can do them in other countries. That's what AJ did. He got his TESOL qualification. First of all, TESOL, like I said, it is a more in-depth course, so that is going to cost more. Also, he did his in person, and we had moved to Malaga, so he did it in Spain. So it was intense. It was full time. It was like 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Super intense. He had practical experience included in that cost, so it was like £1,500. And this was back in 2018, so that was 6 years ago. So I don't know what that costs now. But yes, much, much more expensive, but it really benefited him. Like he literally learned everything about the entire like English language, and he's a fantastic teacher. So it helped him, and it was really, really good for him. And it did mean that he earned more as a result of it. So you want to make sure that you choose the course, go through the content of what's going to be included, make sure it goes through, the different methodologies, and the skills that's going to equip you to strive in the classroom setting. All right, what about specializing? So, of course, general English is always in demand, but it can be a good option to potentially specialize in a particular area. It will help you, or it can help you increase your marketability and your income potential. So you want to think about what area might you specialize in? Do you enjoy working with children? Then focus on specializing in teaching to young learners. Are you passionate about business English and communication? Or maybe do you want to help people prepare for their exam? Many students want to come to a Western country, and in order to do that, they need to pass a test at a certain level. And so they are prepared to spend a lot of money preparing for their TOEIC, for their IELTS tests. This could be a particularly lucrative area of TEFL to get into. So look at different specializations, consider your own interests and your goals as well. See if you can get them to align, and think about what specialism might be right for you. When it comes to specializing, you want to look for courses that have at least 300 hours plus. These are going to be the courses that are more likely to delve into specialisms. Okay, so here I've given you a load of course providers, and there's more. This is just like the basic ones that I'm familiar with. I know that people have done. They are mostly reputable. The only one I cannot vouch for is Groupon, because like I said, you'll find all kinds of different courses on there, but yeah, usually good enough courses for like 20-30 pounds. The main thing is you just need to get started, right? So as long as you have that minimum 120 hours, you can pick any course that you want, but all of these are good enough courses. But of course, like I said, do your own due diligence. These on this side are mostly online courses, so you do majority of your studying online. There may be some of them are strictly online, some of them have hybrid options, so maybe you have a practical element in person. And this side is strictly in-person courses. I'm mainly focused on like more UK based, so like TEFL UK is obviously inside the UK. But you can also potentially, like I mentioned, do your course in another country as well. If you're like, I'm ready to go abroad right now, go and learn and do your TEFL qualification in another country. So you can click, and to say, I've given you the presentation as well, and all the links inside the presentation are clickable. So you can click on these links to go direct to the website. What about not having a qualification? No problem. Like I said, I don't have a qualification, and it did not stop me from getting into the TEFL industry at all. So some online platforms offer opportunities for people who have no experience and who have no qualification, which is fantastic. It means you can get started straight away. Of course, it means that you want to make sure that your English language skills are still good enough to get you started, but you can start without any experience at all. I would say that you should potentially focus on platforms that have a focus on conversational topics. For example, like I spent a lot of my time doing what we call free conversation, which is where a student would book with me and we literally just chat. And we chat about anything, chat about the weather. There was a material that the company I worked with had called the Daily News, and it would literally just be an article about what's happening in the world today, yesterday, in the last week, and it suggests like discussion questions to prompt the student to talk about the topic, but really free, really easy to do. You don't need kind of any special skills in order to just talk about the weather, right? A lot of students just want to improve their conversation. So these kind of conversational topic based platforms would probably be right for you. You also want to focus on a platform that provides you with the materials as well. When you're doing your TEFL qualification, you will gain the skills to be able to put together a lesson plan and know how to build your own curriculum. Obviously, if you don't have a qualification, you potentially don't know how to do that unless you're already a teacher in your country. So you want to ideally choose a platform that will give you the materials, and you just sign in and you open the lesson, you go in and it tells you this is the lesson that the student has picked. They're doing a grammar focus lesson on past principles or whatever, I don't know. And it will say, you say ABC to the student, and the student says DEF or whatever it is. So it literally gives you step-by-step instructions. That's the kind of platform, if you do not have a qualification, that you probably want to focus on. Having a qualification can help you strengthen your application. Yes, it is possible that some of these teaching platforms will prioritize people who do have a qualification. The other thing is it's possible that they may get paid more. There are definitely some companies that value the qualification, and while they may take people who do not have a qualification, you may get paid slightly less. Versus platforms that want you to have a qualification and they may be more paying. And it makes sense, right? Especially if there's going to be a heavy focus on vocabulary, on grammar, on the ability to actually, correct someone's pronunciation, and you've got the qualification to show that you know how to do those things, you potentially could be rewarded for that. So yeah, when AJ was teaching English with the companies that he worked with, he did earn more than I did. Maybe on average, I'd say maybe an extra like $5 to $10 more sometimes. So it can make a difference. You need to be aware of that yeah, if you don't have a qualification, you may earn lower than people who do have the TEFL qualification, but it's a good route to entry. It's a good way to get started, and then if you feel you need to, maybe you decide to do the qualification later on down the line. And also I want you to bear in mind that if you have like QTS, say like you're an English teacher in the UK and you have QTS, they don't care about that. They don't care about your QTS. Again, it kind of sucks because you clearly know the English language inside out, but they recognize the TEFL. We've got to remember that often we're talking about international companies. They don't understand all the different qualifications from all around the world. TEFL is what they know. So they may not recognize your QTS. I have thoughts on that anyway. If you have QTS, start with TEFL. It's like I said, it's a great way to get started, but I think if you have QTS, you shouldn't stay there. There's definitely other online routes that you should take. I'm working on putting together something for you, but in the meantime, start with that. But I would say if you have QTS, you definitely have greater earning potential. You spent years studying to become a teacher, and there's other ways that you can make better income for sure. But we'll talk about that in another one. So let's go on to the essential toolkit. So of course, in order to effectively teach English online, these are the things that you need to have in place. They are essential for the most part. You must invest in a reliable computer or laptop. You must make sure that you have a stable internet connection. You need to get familiar with upload speeds, like emphasis on the stable internet connection. It is so, so important. We're going to talk about this a little bit, and I'll teach you what you need to know. These students, they're paying to learn. If you can't connect, and it's not every country in the world that has great internet connection, they're not going to be willing to waste them. They're not wanting to waste their money. These companies are not going to want to keep you on if you cannot connect and maintain a good internet connection. So that is really, really important. You must have a good quality headset, ideally with microphone and noise cancellation. You don't need noise in the background. Again, very distracting. That's not what they're paying for. So really want to make sure you have good headphones, of course, a webcam. Majority of the time it is video conferencing, you're face to face. You want the area to be well lit. We've mentioned quiet already. Don't want babies in the background. I've had that, I have 2 young children. I've had students complain before about noise. They can hear my children. So, you have to be mindful of that and try to get your workspace as quiet as possible. Well lit, ideally plain background. Even like for some of the companies like I worked with, this might be a distracting background. This is too much going on. They just literally want a plain white wall. So yeah, you want to make sure that you can guarantee that. I didn't write it down, but clothing, Some companies will ask that you wear just like a plain t-shirt as well. Some companies ask for specific colors if they want you to represent them, their like color scheme. But yeah, generally like clothing, cover your shoulders. We're working with students from all around the world. We've got to be respectful of potential different religions and cultural norms. And yeah, sometimes additional resources like online whiteboards, teaching materials. If you're working with a company that provides these things, you don't need it. But if you're doing more work for yourself, then yeah, you do potentially need to consider that. All right, so let's talk about internet speeds. So as I said, super, super important. You need to make sure that you can confirm your internet speed, especially if you're moving to a different place and you don't know what your internet connection is going to be like until you get there. If that is the case for you, you need to ask your landlord to run a speed test before you arrive, and before you even book. Potentially ask the landlord, message them and ask them what the internet speed is. A lot of landlords will just be, oh yeah, it's good, it's really fast, don't worry. Do not take their word for it. You need to ask them to actually run a speed test and get them to tell you the actual speed. And then people might say, yeah, it's like 100 Mbps, it's really, really fast. No, that's not what you need. You need an actual speed test, and you need two numbers. So, they will be able to, if they go to speedtest.net, this is like one of the best websites to do this. All they need to do is click go. They will see a big go in the middle of the screen. They click go, and it will do two things. It will start to measure the download speed. That's the speed that you're going to get first. This is the one that people will usually tell you. This is not the most important number. It will then run and test the upload speed. This is the number that you need to pay attention to. Majority of the time when you're teaching English, you're not just scrolling and opening emails and stuff. That's what download speed is for. You're doing face-to-face conferencing, video conferencing. So it is important when you're doing video work that you have good upload speed. And what is considered an upload speed? Good upload speed will depend on the platform. For like the platform that I used to work for, they asked for a minimum of like 0.5 Mbps, which is really, really low. It's not really good enough for video, to be honest, but I worked for kind of a very easy route into entry companies, so their like standards were a little bit lower and you could get away with having poor internet connection. But at 0.5, you can't really use video. It's really, really bad, to be honest. I would say as a minimum, you could maybe get away with between like 2 to 3, like minimum. It's okay at 2 to 3. Ideally, you need the upload speed to be at least 5 for really good speed. So yeah, pay attention to the upload speed. Get familiar with it because you're gonna need it. Okay, so yeah, this is what it looks like when it's finished, and it's the upload speed that you want to focus on. And you need to get this right. Even like something that we have done in the past is like purchase, we have Wi-Fi in the accommodation, but we also make sure that we have like a dongle or a mobile data connection, so that if you live in an area where there might be like frequent blackouts, for example, if the internet goes down, you can still connect to the dongle potentially. We also bought a backup power supply. One of the most recent place we lived in had frequent electricity cuts. So we had like solar panel backup power supply, so if the electricity went down and everyone was freaking out, we could just plug the laptop and plug our Wi-Fi into our power supply and we would be back up in like 1 minute, and I can keep teaching. So that's really, really important that you kind of try to mitigate against potential issues as well. So what will you actually be teaching? I think I've touched a little bit on it before, but yeah, of course, it depends on the platform. Sometimes you get to choose what you will work on with your student, but more often than not, it will be the student that will teach, that will choose what you will be focusing on. Yes, majority of the time you may be focusing on helping the student to build a strong grammar and vocabulary, fundamentals. Of course, these are the most important building blocks for effective communication. You may also just be helping students to master their everyday conversational skills. Like I said, I had majority of the time was just daily news, was just free conversation, just chatting. Sometimes they wanted to just ask me about my life. Wow, you travel around the world. Oh my gosh, and they just had so many questions about that. So it can be any and everything. You may teach about kids' English specifically, literally like as basic as teaching the alphabet and phonetics and how to pronounce every single syllable. It could be exam preparation. Like I said, this is a real focus. I used to have students that would come in and they only ever wanted to do exam prep. It's not my most favorite topic, to be honest. But it's like literally you would like almost play the role of the examiner, and you will ask that. It will give you platform that I worked with anyway, will give you like actual questions from different tests, and you ask them the questions and you have to time them. They have time to prepare, and then they have time to give their answer, and then you give them feedback on their answer. So preparing for exams is a very very important topic that a lot of students want to focus on. Business English communication. So yeah, I definitely have had students that have come and they're like, okay, I'm about to send this email to my manager who's in the UK. Can you read it and check it and help me correct it and make sure that it's ready to send? That definitely has happened. Or I've had people who have said that they're interviewing for positions in the UK or an English speaking country, and they want to do interview prep. And they've asked me to play the role of an interviewer and, ask them questions about the potential job that they're applying for, and then give them feedback on their interview. So yeah, you could be doing things like that. And then just generic like learning skills. So of course, we're helping them improve their communication techniques, active listening. I had one student, every time he booked me, he would ask me to read through an article, and then he would summarize like each paragraph, and he was basically trying to improve his listening skills. He wanted to make sure that he understood what I was saying and that he could kind of regurgitate that information. Pronunciation, fluency development, of course, building confidence and reducing speaking anxiety. I worked with Japanese students, as I said. They can be a very shy people, which means they're very sweet, but it means that sometimes they're a little nervous about speaking in public, and so they want support with that, and you're gonna help to give them some confidence and encourage them, help them to overcome those anxieties, and support them with expressing themselves. So it can be really fun. But yeah, start to pay attention into which topic maybe that you're most interested in. Again, when we're talking about specializing, this is where you could really focus on. I am great with free conversation and adults who just want general conversation, want to just practice and need support with boosting their confidence. I'm not so good at kids English. Do not enjoy it. It's not for me at all. Even though I have children, I love my babies, but I do not enjoy kids English at all. I would avoid kids English as much as possible. A lot of children don't have the patience to sit through 25 minutes of a lesson, especially if they're really, really young, like 3 to 5 years old. They just come on and they're just like, I don't want to answer this. Meh, I don't want to answer any question. 25 minutes can feel like a long time when you're sitting with a student who's not interested. I get that with teenagers as well. They're not necessarily, sometimes my favorite to teach as well. I'm like, I like to work with people that want to learn, that want to be there. AJ, on the other hand, amazing with children. Honestly, I would watch him do his lessons like in awe. He is fantastic with them. He definitely, loves teaching kids English. He doesn't enjoy adults so much, like, especially, people who want to speak to native English speakers. Like I said, he doesn't always get idioms either. So, that's not his forte. So, learn about the subject areas that you're passionate about and that you're interested in, because that will definitely help you to enjoy your lessons so much more. Okay, let's move on to the job search. So there are a number of different ways that are going to help you to find your TEFL job. And I will say to start with that you may want to think about securing more than one opportunity. I will tell you why in a moment. But yeah, there's different ways to find potential paid opportunities. So if you did an online TEFL course, then your company may have an online job board that you can search through, and they will share different opportunities with you, network with other tutors as well. If you know someone who's teaching online, or when you're traveling around, get talking to people. It's usually it's like one of the most common ways that people use to make their money online. So talk to people, ask them, who do they work with, what's working well for them. Of course, you want to make sure that you are ideally working with a reputable company, an established company as well, that have good recruitment processes. This can be a little bit challenging. I will give you a list of platforms that you can check out. And so there's kind of three main ways that you can make money teaching English online. So first, you could work with a TEFL company. These are established companies, and they have thousands of students that are coming to their website to learn English online. Sometimes they will have set students, like AJ's company used to give him a set specific amount of students, like 6 students that he had to work with on a group basis for set hours each week. And he knew exactly the students he would be working with for the next 10 weeks, and it was kind of guaranteed income. So that can be really helpful if you want to, kind of have predictable and kind of stable income. The challenges with this is usually, though, the rates are set. You do, it's a good thing in the sense that you know how much you'll be earning. But yeah, the rates are usually set with this. They will provide the materials, and they will provide you with teaching. These are usually really good beginner friendly platforms to work with. I worked with the TEFL company that did set the rate. They had hundreds, thousands of students that came to their platform, but those students could look for me, and they get to decide which tutor that they wanted to work with. So I didn't have set hours. I just was able to open my availability, and I could say today I want to work for 7 hours, and then I leave my slots open, and students can choose if they want to work with me. But the good thing about working with an established company like that is they bring the students, which is helpful. Or you can work with a marketplace. So the way that a marketplace works is that you upload your profile, so an image, a description of yourself, maybe of your specialisms. Maybe you create a intro video to tell the students all about yourself and what you offer, and try and entice them. Why should they learn with you? And the students find you. Sometimes with marketplaces, you may have to market yourself as well. So there's a little bit more work involved. But because of that, it means that you can set your own rate as well. So you can decide how much you want to charge. You may want to charge in line with what other tutors are charging on that site, but you could charge more if you wanted to. So there's more flexibility, more freedom, but you may have to do some more of the work as well. Or you completely work for yourself. This has the greatest amount of earning potential because you can literally charge anything you want at all. It has the greatest amount of freedom. You set your hours, you set the conditions. you also find your own students. So this is definitely has the highest income potential, but definitely requires more of the work too. So yeah, choose which one will suit you best. I would say maybe choose a combination as well. I do suggest, like I said before, working with more than one company. So maybe start with the TEFL company who's established, maybe alongside that work with the marketplace, and also start to try and work for yourself and find your own students. Do a combination, I would suggest. So here I just wanted to lay out a number of just a smaller amount of companies and show you kind of expectations and the requirements of each company, so you can get an idea of potentially what to expect and what it looks like working with different companies. So we've talked about different hourly rates. Often the TEFL industry, like hourly rate, looks really low. And while it can seem really low by Western standards, a lot of these rates you may not be able to like live in London with. It's not going to be a livable wage for a place like London often. However, you have to think if you're earning, let's go English hunt here, if you're earning like $14 an hour, even $10 an hour, like Camberley, $10 an hour. Wow, you can't do much with that in London. Living in a place like Thailand, that goes really, really far. So, like when we lived in Thailand, our income didn't really matter so much. It was comfortable because if you're earning like £1,000 a month, but your accommodation is only £250 a month, which is what we were paying often when we were in Thailand, and your meal is like £1 per meal. Like we were rarely spending more than like £5 a meal on a day as a family. Like it's super affordable to eat in Thailand. So only earning $10 an hour, that's going to go really far. For like food, that's like 2 days worth of food almost. So okay, if you only earn $10 an hour, it's fine. In 1 hour, you've covered your food for the day. Like it doesn't, earning hundreds each day doesn't become necessary anymore. So yeah, just wanted to touch on that, why it can seem low, but earning in pounds and dollars, it can stretch really far in many countries in the world. All right, but yeah, let's look, say for example, here at 51 Talk. So you can see that they offer a rate of like $18 to $22, which is kind of high in the TEFL industry. They provide the lessons, but they have a focus on young learners. And they do have a minimum requirement of 10 hours. They require you to have a TEFL qualification. Yes, they accept non-natives, but they also need you to have experience and you do need to have a degree. So yes, they are the higher end of the scale for majority of these companies, but look, they require the most from you as well. When you compare that with like Engo, for example, £2 to £7 per hour. £2 per hour. Engo is actually the company that I used to work with. So remember I said to you, like I got an offer of $10 an hour and my husband was offered half. This is the company because they have non-native and they have native speakers on their platform. Native speakers earn more, non-natives earn less. So yeah, you can see the requirements here. You can work with any type of student. No minimum hours, complete freedom in that area. No TEFL required. Yes, they accept non-natives. No experience, no degree required. But they pay one of the least amounts, out of all of these companies. So you have to bear that in mind. You can have, if you're going to work with an established company, can have greater amounts of freedom, but that may cost you financially. Okay, so yeah, just wanted to give you an idea. That's definitely something to think about. Often with these companies, that amount that you can make is tied to the requirements. So you definitely want to think about that. What are you prepared to accept? What's the minimum amount that you need to make in order to live abroad, if that's what you're working on? And, see how the different companies compare when it comes to that. So I've given you here a list of different jobs that you can potentially work for. So in person, if you're like, I want to go live abroad and I want to teach in person, many of the providers that offer courses, they also connect you with opportunities to teach in person as well. So go to these websites if you want to teach in person. Sometimes you could go move to Thailand, go move to Korea, and they may support you with accommodation. They may even provide accommodation as well. They may pay for your flights to get there too. So that's if you want to work in person. Check out all of these websites. They are clickable as well. Online job boards. Often if you want to work online, like I said, connect with the companies that you did your course with. If you did that, these courses have job boards and they regularly advertise different online opportunities as well. Here is a list of a number of different companies, not all of them. This is not an exclusive list. There definitely are others out there, but these are the ones that I'm familiar with, and these are the ones that I've found for you. So you can click on all of these. There's so many different types. They have so many different requirements. So you've got to do your research. That's the part you've got to do. But this is a good list to get you started, and apply to as many as you can. Give yourself the biggest chances to control your income and your future by having more options available to you. And then finally, these are online marketplaces. So as I said, these ones you're going to have to create the profile. You may have to do a little bit more work in terms of recruitment potentially. Like one of the first ones, like Outschool, is a fantastic marketplace to work for. Really great quality teaching on there. However, you do often have to do the work to get the students. But what I love about Outschool in particular, like with all of the others, they're mainly one-to-one. Outschool, you can do group work. And if you get to set the rates, like I said, on marketplaces. And if you're charging, like say you want to charge like $10 per student, and you've got 10 students in your class, you could be making $100 an hour. Like Outschool is crazy income potential for a marketplace. So that's definitely a good one to check out as well. But yeah, I would say go through all of them and see what you come across. All right, now, as we said before, working for yourself definitely has the highest earning and freedom potential. This should be like everybody's long-term goal, but you definitely need to know how to market yourself and attract your clients. I have never worked for myself in the TEFL industry, so I don't have the experience to teach you all about that. I'm just giving you basics. But I do know an amazing woman called Taya who is doing fantastically with securing her own clients. And so I invited her to come and share with you all how to start a TEFL business, how to land and secure those clients, where to find those clients, because that's one of the most important things, and how to negotiate contracts and rates and, what to offer them. So join us on Tuesday, the 23rd of April, if you want to learn about how to start your TEFL business. And if you're joining us after that date, then this link is still clickable and it will take you so you can learn how to get started working for yourself on TEFL. You'll get the replay. All right, and then finally, let's touch on the realities of online TEFL. Listen, it's competitive out there, especially now more so because of the whole Chinese shift and everything. It means that people have moved towards other platforms. Yes, expect competition for jobs, especially if you don't have a qualification. You're going to be up against people who do have qualification. Bear that in mind. Variable pay. We've already gone through the different pay rates. It's not always predictable. Even if they tell you your income, yes, it's lower than traditional teaching jobs as well. There's different ways to make money, even within a company. I forgot to mention this earlier, but yeah, you can bonuses as well. So if it says $10 an hour, that there may still be other ways that you can boost that income. So like with my company, if you taught more than 100 hours per month, they would give you a boost and you would get a bit more on top of your monthly income for that. If you attend, for some companies, if your attendance is like perfect, you get 100% attendance, you never miss a lesson, sometimes they'll give you a bonus for that. So there's often like really variable pay, and you just want to be mindful of that too. Unstable work, I can't lie, especially those, where you don't have set hours, where you've got to wait for the students to book. It can be unstable at times. That's going to impact on the income that you receive each month. There's not necessarily, it's not necessarily guaranteed how much you can always make, especially if you're a more profile based company that you're working with. So are you okay with that? And this is one of the reasons why I always say focus on multiple streams of income. We were never solely relying on teaching English online. I also create digital products. I do affiliate marketing. My husband is a web developer. We've always had multiple streams of income, because while teaching online is a great way to start, I do suggest, that you have other ways to make money, and make sure, you're either working with multiple companies or you have other ways that you're bringing in income. And I think that generally, even if you have like a typical 9 to 5, you shouldn't be relying on that. I don't think, true stability really exists anymore. Anything can change at any moment in time. So you want to prepare for that as best as you can. Limited benefits. You're not in the West anymore. You're not going to get kind of typical employee benefits. There's no health insurance. There's no paid time off. Usually with most companies, there's no paid time off. How are you going to mitigate against that? You've got to make sure you have savings, make sure you have other ways to make money, make sure that you're thinking about how you're going to still be able to afford these things. How can you afford to take time off if you're not being paid? Cultural differences. Yes, this is going to be a new learning style for you. You've got to think about time zones. I remember when AJ was working with the Chinese companies, like if we'd come and visit in the UK, sometimes he'd have to be up at like 2 a.m. to teach a class that's like 9, 10 a.m. in China. Are you okay with that time difference? Cultural backgrounds, like the company that I worked with, they used to ask us to greet our students and call them with we had to say San on the end of their name, so like Daniel San, which is like the equivalent of our Mr. and Mrs. So there may be appropriate ways that you have to speak to the students. So they stopped that after a while. Like my students were like, don't call me San, we're learning English, you don't do that in English, but so just be mindful though that you may have to follow things like this. Technical glitches, it happens, you have to be careful. These disruptions can happen, and again, you want to prepare for it to try and make sure that it doesn't happen, but it can. And if it does, again, how is that going to impact your income? When we were in Turkey, we had terrible internet, and then we moved to Greece, and again, it was really bad internet, and it meant that AJ couldn't teach a lot of the time. And by the time we got to Greece, one of his companies was like, yeah, you're not working for us anymore, you've missed too many lessons, it's too much of an issue. And he just lost that income overnight. Yeah, so try to prevent technical glitches where you can, but know that they can arise. And unfair treatment, again, international companies, different laws. You are not going to have the same protection as in your home country. Sometimes, like I've had it, if you miss a lesson, you don't get paid, or you have troubles with connectivity and you're like, it wasn't my fault, there's nothing I could do. So what? The company's not going to pay for you. You didn't turn up for your lesson. Unfair dismissal, like I said, yeah, sometimes these companies just cut your hours overnight. They decide you're not doing that. I've heard people, say they got pay reductions overnight as well. So it can be really unpredictable. And again, that's why I say multiple streams of income. Work for yourself. That's the main aim, is work for yourself, because you can have the most amount of control and most amount of freedom. But understand that if you're going to go into the TEFL industry, you may have to deal with these realities. um, I don't want to put you off, but I want you to be aware. Ultimately, I love teaching English online. It is so much fun. I've had such a great time. I've met so many amazing students. And more importantly, for me, it's allowed me the freedom and my family the freedom to live a beautiful lifestyle where we have lived in all these amazing countries. And, I've got so many wonderful stories, partly due to the fact that I've been able to teach English online for so many years. So it's amazing. It's a wonderful starting point, I would say, and I do encourage you, if you're thinking about moving abroad, or even if you just want some more flexibility in your schedule, you want to spend some more time, work around your family commitments. But yeah, definitely, if you're ready to move abroad, you have no idea how to get started, teaching English as a foreign language is the perfect way to get started and earning an online income. And I hope today has been really beneficial and you've learned a lot, and you feel empowered to move forward as an English tutor. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Guys, take care, and we'll see you again soon. Take care. Bye.